Let's talk about royalty share when it comes to working with an audiobook narrator. Is this going to be something that works for you and for your audiobook narrator? Now, a royalty share is where you as the author are creating a collaboration with an audiobook narrator. They're going to record through your book, and together you're going to publish that, and then you split the royalties between you, the author, and them, the audiobook narrator. This means the author is not paying up front for the audiobook narration. If you pay up front for the audiobook narration, that audiobook narrator records it, hands you the files, and then doesn't see another penny from it. They are paid for their time, and that's it. With royalty share, they are not paid for their time. They are receiving royalties the same as the author. So anything you make in sales, you then split. So royalty share means that the audiobook narrator is doing a ton of work up front for no money. And if that book sells really well, let's say we sell 100,000 copies, that audiobook narrator will be paid well. But if it's a smaller book and it only makes 100 sales, we're not making a ton of money as an audiobook narrator, probably not even enough to cover their time recording it. So they have to be very smart as narrators on what projects they're going to take on. Now, oftentimes you will see new narrators and newer authors coming together to do a royalty share as an audiobook narrator. And that's fine. If everybody understands the terms, that's fine. If the audiobook narrator chooses to forego being paid for their time and effort and just receive royalties and hope and pray that the author markets it well enough to make money, that's fine. That is their choice. And that's something we see, again, with a lot of younger narrators, or people just getting their foot through the door. This is a really great way to build up a portfolio and to then maybe make some money on the back end without just recording things for the sake of recording things. The author, of course, benefits very well from this if they are not making a ton of sales. If this is a lower threshold book, you make out really well because you're not paying thousands of dollars for narration. You're just giving part of the small profit that you get. However, if the author is incredibly well known and is selling many thousands of copies, then they're losing a good chunk of money by sharing it with a narration split. So really coming into this conversation, we are looking at an author who is betting on not selling a ton of books and a narrator who is really hoping that they are. And that is the collaboration that we are getting. Now, typically when we see authors who are producing content that is selling well, then they are making really good royalties from it. They are going to outright buy that narration. They will just pay for the time, a couple $1,000s, then they get the files. And from there on, every bit of money that comes in is directly into their pocket. It is not going to be something that they have to split with that narrator. They get to make all of the choices on it, where it goes, how they're going to use it, what they're going to do with it. They get all of those choices. And so typically we see authors who are a little bit more established and authors who are making more money on their book sales already just directly pay a narrator to then be able to get a lot of money on the other side of this if they're already doing well. And so it really comes down to what is going to suit your needs and who is going to come and match that collaboration. You are not going to see highly effective narrators or narrators who have been in this a long time, who makes a lot of money on this one. You're not going to see them do royalty shares with books that are not extremely high performing. So unless you're getting like Hunger Games Divergent level books, you're probably not going to see those people do royalty share because it doesn't cover their time and efforts and pay for those things. If they are seeing somebody who is really good at selling those books and they know they're going to really sell those audiobooks, they might jump into a collaboration at that point. So when it comes to this, you have to decide what you want. As an author, do you want to split your royalties forever and you bank on not selling a ton of those? Or do you want to just outright buy it with a bunch of money out of your pocket, but then you have the hopeful success that it does well on its own as you put it out and you're bringing in more money than you paid that audiobook narrator? You have to come to the conclusion of outright paying it or to do a royalty split forever no matter what happens. If you are doing a royalty split, by the way, and you're putting that out, then if you want to put it on different platforms, if you want to pull it from platforms, if you want to market it in different ways, you are contractually obligated to talk to that audiobook narrator. You cannot pull it off of a place without their consent. So if you have it on a specific platform, you cannot take it off without the audiobook narrator's consent if it's royalty share. If you outright bought it and it's totally yours, you can do whatever you want. You also can't put it somewhere without their consent if you're doing that royalty share. And as a narrator, you have to decide what's going to be the best fit for you as well. It might be a really good place for you to start out, but not a good place for you to end up. So doing a couple of video royalty share could work to your benefit because you get your name out there, you get a lot of products out there, you have a lot that people can look at, and it gives you a lot of credibility, plus maybe a little bit of royalties. And then grow from there into however you want to run your business. Now, of course, there are outliers to all of these things. There's a lot that goes into these decisions. And as an author and as a narrator, you have to be hyper aware of how the contract works. You need to know what you're putting into this, what you're getting out of this, and the rules and regulations of doing all of these things. You also want to make sure you're working with a professional. So you want to work with a professional author and you want to work with a professional narrator. Don't necessarily go for people who are just trying it out. Right? So be careful who you hire, who you work with, and how you are forever connected to those people for the life of this novel that can last for a really, really long time. There's a lot that goes into these decisions, and there is no right or wrong way. There are pros and cons to both sides of this. So you have to take into careful consideration what you want to do and then spell everything out in the contract that you have a publishing lawyer look over to make sure both sides are protected in this. And you want to make sure that you know expectations going into this. There's a lot that goes down when it comes to audiobook narrators, and we've got a full playlist on audiobook narrators with really great audiobook narrators educating us in this space. So make sure you check that out. I'll link it down below. Drop your questions on working with an audiobook narrator, working with royalty share, all of those things. In our daily videos, we will be answering those questions, helping you to navigate the world of publishing from your writing to your publishing to your marketing to make this your most profitable and successful author year ever. We'll see you then.